Welcome back to Hatchfoot Economics, and thank you for being here. My name's Connie, and this channel is for the economic development and growth of women of color. So I'm glad you're here, and one thing I want to talk about is college education. This is a very controversial subject for me. Every time I talk about it, people be like, what is she talking about? So I'm going to say something very controversial. You don't need to go to college. You don't need to go to college. And the reason I'm saying that is because you don't need to go to college. Now, if you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, an architect, a scientist, yeah, then for those specific things, in that specific nature, you're going to need to go to college because you can't wing that. You can't learn that. These are very cryptic, very technical things that you have to apply yourself stage by stage. So I get it. But I do want to say, do your research. We have access to the internet. And when I was younger, I used to have to use the encyclopedia. People laugh about it. But if you're past the age of 35, remember going in school and you used to floss and show off who had an encyclopedia and everything was A, B. And we literally had to open books. And this was our internet. We didn't have an internet. So now we have an internet. So there's absolutely no excuse to not doing research into any field you want to go to. And I mean extensive research, not just Googling one or two links, reading for at least a week to see what this career can do productively. And the reason I say that is because if you're just going into a field just to make money, make sure you're actually making money. Make sure it's worth an investment. You'll be surprised. Some realms sound very lucrative, but they're not. And it doesn't matter. You go to school, you pay for that degree, they're going to want their money back, whether it's lucrative or not. So it's all about an investment. College is an investment. And that's the reason why I say not everyone has to go, because not every major gives you a good return on your investment. I'm going to say it again. Not every major gives you a good return on your investment. I hope that makes sense. If I go to a broker and I tell a broker, here's $1 million, could you invest for me? And the broker says, sure, I'm going to invest it into Nike, but you're going to lose about 50% of its value. And after 50%, it's going to continue to depreciate for the next 5 years. What would I say as a potential investor? I'm like, that's fucking crazy. But a lot of people go to colleges and do the same thing. Yeah, I'm going to put you in school. You're going to pay a lot of money. You're going to pay the current market price. Everything's going to go up, 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 up. When you graduate, you're not going to make that much money. You're going to make half of what you probably pay for the degree. And probably going into there, it's going to continue to deteriorate because the market, the jobs, the technology, the skill sets change. And it's true. The skill sets you learn change. There's some things that are computer software programs and applications that I didn't even know existed until I, graduated. And then everything keeps modernizing. We're living in a very fast-paced world. So you have to make a decision. Is the major you're going into time proof? Is the major you're going into financial proof? Or is it diversifiable enough? And what I mean by diversifiable, like if you're going into a major and in that specific realm it crashes, can you take that skill set and easily apply it to something else? And if you can't answer these questions, do your research. Now I want to skip the college thing because one thing I have a chip on my shoulder, and it's true. They don't educate black people for black people. And you're going to say, Connie, that sounds fucking racist. It's not racist. When you are a person of color, per the EEOC, or the Labor Department of the United States of America, we face massive discrimination. And yes, I like when white people say, but Connie, there's discrimination for age, and Connie, there's discrimination for gender, and Connie, there's discrimination for sexual orientation, and Connie, yeah, but when you slap on some fucking melanin, it's double impact. It's like Van Damme, Jean-Claude, double impact, okay? It is double the trouble. And when you're going to school, they don't even teach people about being aware of biases. When you're going to school, it's such an ignorant statement. It's such an ignorant subject. And what I mean by ignorant, meaning that people aren't aware, to the point where people are debating if discrimination is real when they have a fucking EEOC website from our government. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission reports daily about the millions of dollars that private companies pay to the government for violating shit. And that's the ones that actually could get get proven. There's so many things. Do you know how guilty that person has to be? I've been through that process. I personally have been through that process. And do you know how guilty that person has to be to actually win money through the EEOC settlement? It's like you have to catch O.J. Simpson with 2 gloves, 2 shoes, 2 knives, and like chopped up bodies making sushi saying, how would you like it? That's how guilty you have to be. You got to be O.J. Simpson, but he still got off guilty. And I try to tell people that is not debatable. People of color face massive discrimination. Why do you think they have diversity initiatives? What do you think that means? Diversity initiatives. It means that they're trying to get people of color because they're struggling. And now they got something called diversity and inclusion. Do you know what that means when you hear that? It means we're diversified, but now we got to figure out a way to include your black ass. So it drives me crazy when I see people of color be totally oblivious, and white people too. It's like, dude, read, Google. It's not that hard. You have brand new tech companies that are full of white liberals who are supposed to be impervious to racism, and they have the same, even more severe, restrictive, racist, sexist culture. Look at Google. They're a search company and they can't find black people. Look at Facebook. They are connected to almost every human in the planet and they can't find black people and people of color, Latino. Look at Twitter. These are all tech companies that are brand spanking new. Tech is not old. Facebook's only 13 years old, but they're struggling with discrimination cases like it's 1802. So you have to realize, what does that mean to me? Connie, why are you talking about this? I want to be successful. I want to go to college. Screw you. Why? You know why it matters? Because when you get into the work field, like me, when you get into the workforce, not the field, when you get into the workforce, you're going to realize how much money and time you're going to waste trying to be twice as good, getting half as much, and working twice as hard. If you don't see my other video, time is money. And it's not okay to tell people of color that you got to be double educated to get half. I'm going to tell you, probably one manager in my entire life, and if she sees this video, she's going to know, is the only person that contributed to any part of my development. I have not learned anything from most of my managers because either A, I was smarter, B, I was more educated, or C, they don't know what the fuck they was doing because they got that position because they was fair skinned or a man. And it's the absolute truth. I think I had one female African-American boss in my entire life, and she was treated like shit. Sorry if you see this, but it's a crazy world out there. And that's why I'm not too keen on an educational system that's omitting what's happening. Our government is doing active research, and they're not telling you that. So you're going to go to Harvard, you're going to go to Yale, you're going to go to Cornell, and you're going to graduate, and you're going to come into the real world with your PhD, your doctorate, and you can't get a job. And you're going to be like, holy crap. Or you're going to be underemployed. Black people are some of the most severely underemployed people in America. So that's why I'm saying, do you need to go to college? If you want to be a doctor, research the realm of what you want to do and look at it and say, okay, this pays a lot. Can I do it? Do I have a passion for it? Would I stick it through? How much am I going to make when I'm done? What's the 10-year projection? Let me do some research. Let me speak to some people in that field. Let me go on LinkedIn. Let me talk to some doctors. Let me send letters. Let me try to go to networking events. Let me see if I can speak to a doctor in that field. Let me make an appointment with a doctor in that field and just ask him a question. You got to be that type of way because it's all about your economic success. And people say, Connie, but it shows that when you make money in college, it's a very gray area because more than ever, African Americans are going into debt because of college. Over 54% are making less because you're paying for this degree. You're paying for the tuition, and you're not getting enough money to pay this off successfully. You have to understand why college is so expensive. They look at the projection of how much you could potentially make if you graduate with that degree. And if you're not graduating with that degree and getting into that field, forget about it. I've worked in places where I know I was the best person, where I was killing it, doing twice the job. And I knew I would never get considered for a top role because of the color of my skin. So I'm here to tell people of color, unless you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, an architect, a scientist, and even then, do your research specifically into what realm in those things you want to go into and see, is it going to be worth it? If not, go into business for yourself. Take that same loan potential, open a nail salon, open a laundromat, open a couple of Chinese restaurants, open a beauty supply store, sell some hair, get a regular job, start investing into the stock market, be an entrepreneur, think about tech ideas. Tech is huge, and you could have an idea for an app. You got to do something. But going into the workforce and not considering the possible discrimination or the discrimination you will face, going into the workforce and being completely oblivious to all the challenges you're going to have, all the time you might be wasting, is actually crazy. So that's the first thing you got to do is, is college for you? Again, I'm not a big college fiend, and you're probably saying, what, did you go to college? I did. I got a bachelor's in business administration and management from Metropolitan College, which used to be Audrey Cohen. And then I continued for my master's from Cornell IRL. They actually have a satellite school on 34th Street on the 4th floor. Zip code is 1001, I think. So that was for labor relations. So I have an HR background. And I'm going to tell you, nobody gives a fuck about my Cornell degree. In fact, I've been belittled. Is this a certificate? I'm like, do they even give certificates? I don't even know. No, it's an actual university degree. Like, I physically went to a school and they don't care. So you have to realize I made a bad decision. I owe a lot of money to that. So I regret doing that. I owe a lot of money. So what I'm trying to tell you is that it's not about the education. It's not about you getting that education per se. It's truly about you networking, planning for the future, and financial